Hi, I'm Joe McDonald and welcome to our YouTube channel. Recently I did an ebook on the menu items for the OM1 or OMDE M1 Mark III and the M1X camera, the Mark III being the latest flagship of the Pro models of the Olympus cameras. The subtitle for the book was What I Use and Why. And the point to that is you don't really have to master the entire Olympus menu, for that matter with any of the cameras you might be using, but you want to be able to use particular things and have them at your fingertips. And what I want to show you right off the get-go is using the favorites, or what I call the star menu, where we can put items that will be immediately at your fingertips. And these are probably the items that you'll be using almost exclusively if you're a wildlife and nature photographer. Now, that being said, you might find as you become more and more familiar with the camera, there are particular things that you use that I haven't addressed, and I'm sure over time I'll probably pick out some things too that I'll be using a little bit more frequently. But the point to the video and the point to the ebook that I did is that these items will get you started and probably be able to see you through your entire photographic career using these cameras extremely effectively. So the very first thing I'm going to do is hit my menu button, and I can toggle through with shooting menu 1, shooting menu 2, video menu, playback menu, custom menu, setup menu, and my menu, which is a favorites menu, or what you could call that the star menu. Now there's nothing on it right now. It says no item registered, and we can save frequently used menu items here. So I'm going to go up to the top, and all I had to do is hit my arrow pad, and I'm going to toggle over, and where it says reset custom mode, I am going to hit my record button, and I'm going to hit the OK, and that is now added to my star menu. Nothing in that custom mode setting is going to be changed at this point, but on this menu now I can go to the custom modes and make any kind of changes I'd like to do. And we're going to do that a little bit later, but first of all I want to put items on here that I think you would use very, very frequently. And now we're going to add another. So I'm going to go down this list and see if there'd be anything on there. And actually, if you shoot video, the digital teleconverter is a really good one to have available, because what that does is basically crops your sensor to half, so you double your magnification. So I'm going to hit the record button again, and I'm going to put it on star menu 2 because I'm not going to use it too frequently. So just by hitting the OK button, it's now added. And then the next one down, which is for self-timer and also for time-lapse photography on the M1X. This is, all three of these are in one item. The Mark III, the time-lapse is on a separate item, and I'll show that in an image in a minute. So I'm going to put this, because I do use it frequently, I'm toggling up to 1, I hit OK, and there we go, we have that one finished. Now the next, let's toggle over. The next one, bracketing, is really, really handy if you're doing focus bracketing, and if you're doing macro work, and even sometimes in landscape, and sometimes even wildlife, if it's still, you can use that. So I'm going to add that to my star menu 1 because I'll use that quite frequently. The HDR, the high dynamic range, I don't use in fact I haven't used it at all yet, but that would be good for landscape photographers. I'm not one, so I'm going to pass on that for now. Same with multiple exposure. Keystone compensation though, you might want to have handy. I'm not going to put it on because it happens to be on shooting menu 2 and easy to get to. But high resolution shot, where the camera shoots basically a series of images and composites them together to make a very large file, I am going to use that. So I'm hitting the star menu, and I'm going to put it on star menu 2 because I won't use it that frequently. Alright, and then Live ND, which is Live Neutral Density Filter, is another one that I'll use on occasion for landscape. So I'm going to put that on and keep it on star menu 2. So we're going to toggle down, going back to the menu here, down to the gear menu, and toggling over to A1, you have various autofocus features. And right now, there's nothing on here that needs priority. Maybe in a later video we'll explore. However, A2, the next one down, if we toggle with our arrow pad to mode settings, you'll see here that you have a series of check marks for different focusing grids on your autofocus. And some of them you may not use very frequently. So if you wanted to, you could simply hit the check mark or the OK button, and that would take off that particular autofocus. But I would suggest that you have all of them in the first one done. The second one, which is a single point, very, very important. And then you might want to have the cross, or maybe take that off and instead go with the 3x3. And provided you hit the OK button, get that on. And for now I'm going to take off these C2, C3, C4 because nothing is on there at the moment. Now with that, let me show you what happens. Okay, so I'm going to do in A2, the mode settings, and I have activated the entire grid of focusing points, also a single point, and then finally 3x3. Now, with those three being active, those are the only autofocus points that I can select from, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's hit our super menu, and here we have all the points selected, which is really great for birds in flight. The 3x3 and a single tiny auto point, or as default, it gives you a larger one as well. If I'm doing something where I really have to fine-tune, I'll use that smaller of those points. But we basically have three different focusing selections there. And if we just go to that single point for a second, I can then use my arrow pad to position things where I want, or I can also use the multi-selector switch, the little toggle switch that is right above the info button on the M1X. And is right above the arrow pad on the Mark III. So let's go to another menu item. We'll go from A2 to A3. And the M1X, if you have that camera and have upgraded the software, has tracking. And originally, the tracking was either motorsports, airplanes, trains. They added another one, and that was bird tracking. And I love this. I use it quite a bit. So with the tracking, I'll hit OK, and then go back to my menu and just highlight this. And I'm going to put that on my star menu because it will be something that I will keep on flipping back and forth from. So that is now added to my menu. Let's go to A4. And manual focus assist. And there's two things here, magnify and peaking. Go to magnify. What it will do is when you're in manual mode, or when you pop your lens into manual mode, or if you're using AF plus MF, or autofocus plus manual, when you would move your focusing collar, the image magnifies. And if you really have to do fine tuning with your focus, this is a really, really great thing to have. So put magnify. Well, actually, I can't put magnify. I have to do focus assist. And I am going to put that on my favorites menu, my star menu. And also with this, though, we have something called peaking. And how peaking works is when your edges are in focus, you'll have kind of like a red marching ant type thing that will outline the area that's sharply in focus. And that's another way that you can confirm focus if you're not doing the focus magnify. Now, one thing with the focus magnify, and that is that wherever your focusing point is positioned, that's the area that's going to magnify. You can really kind of get yourself confused there, because if the focusing point is someplace other than right on your subject or like on a target area, you're magnifying maybe airspace or just black forest background. So you have to position that right onto your subject. So we have that done. We'll go down to one that I think is really important on this as well, and that's going to be on D2 Live View Boost. And I'm going to hit this and put that on my star menu as well. And what Live View Boost does is it electronically jacks up the exposure. It's not the exposure that your picture will have, but it will allow you to see through your viewfinder or through the monitor in very, very dim light. I find it great when I'm doing hummingbirds, where I might be shooting at settings that are completely underexposing the ambient light. But with the Live View Boost, I still have a very, very clear view of my subject. Here at Hoot Hollow, we're photographing raccoons in the evening with LED lights to illuminate the scene, but then we're using electronic flashes to actually capture the scene. And the Live View Boost really makes it easy for composition and for focusing. The point with Live View Boost, though, is what you see in your viewfinder or on your monitor is not what you're going to get as your final exposure. And even the histogram, if you'd have that active, would be the Live View Boost histogram and not your actual exposure. How you determine the actual exposure is you look at the analog scale at the bottom of the viewfinder, and that will tell you whether you're on or if you're off. What I'd like to do now is give you a real-time demonstration. So I have my camera just aimed at the corner of our office here, our studio, and you can see that the image is very, very underexposed. And you'll also notice that on the analog scale it says -3. Well, if I hit my menu and go to Live View Boost and turn that on, that's how that's set. Now, when you look at the image, it's very, very bright. I could focus, I could compose very, very easily. However, notice that the analog scale is blinking that it's at -3. And if I took the shot, I'll take one and show you the view. There it is. It's completely underexposed. And what I'm going to do now is change my shutter speed, and you can see that eventually the analog scale says 0, or they're basically 0 there. And now if I take a picture and show you it, there's the correct shot. So it's really important that you look at your analog scale when you're using Live View Boost. One of the things that really annoyed me at first with a mirrorless camera was that the last image that I shot would appear on the screen as soon as I took my finger off the shutter button. And if I was following action, if I was following, say, like a penguin that was running along the surf and I was shooting with a motor drive, and then just for a second I left off with my finger, the image would appear. And when it appeared then, I would, call me stupid or something, but I would like pause, and my brain wouldn't necessarily flick that I'm looking at a still image, not the running bird. And even when I would then recognize this, it might just be like a microsecond later, the bird now was out of my frame and I'd have to find it again. So this is a simple fix, and what I'm going to do here is go to my menu, and under the wrench, and this applies both to the M1X and to the Mark III, I'm going to go over and under Record View, I'm going to make sure that that is turned off. You can't have that on, and you could have it on auto or any number of different seconds. Let's see how far up that goes. I think it goes up to about 20 seconds. But anyway, I want this thing off. And if I indeed want to look at an image, I can do so by just hitting the little playback arrow. Well, I've presented a lot of information here, and rather than go on with a half-hour video, I'm going to divide it up into 2 sections, maybe even 3, depending on how much goes into the next one. But everything that I've covered here is also in my ebook, and everything is thoroughly explained there. What I'll be doing in the next video is talking about the other features that I use, but again, the important thing here is you don't have to have everything mastered. There are about maybe 7 really important things that we've covered and will be covering that will make your shooting with Olympus a really rewarding experience. So see you next time with part 2 of the menu.